Hello, everyone. This is Mauer Levy, and welcome to another, I wouldn't say production, I would just say sound tutorial. Today, we're going to look into Reese basslines. Some of you heard in my recent productions, I use those things a lot. Some of my kinks are Reese basslines. It's a very pleasing sound, and I've been exploring more into it during the pandemic while I was stuck at home. I decided to share some few tips and tricks with you guys. I'm not gonna go and teach you how to make what I just did. I'm just gonna teach you basic uh, tricks with Reese basslines and how to get really creative and crazy with it. So this is the example we have here. Cool. So this is a Reese bassline made with Serum. Again, just a basic shape. Now we're gonna talk about what makes the Reese bassline move and all the pulsing cycles in the waveform and what creates the movement for the Reese bassline. So basically, a Reese bassline, think of it as a loop sample. I made a bunch of Reese basslines here with different plugins just to show you how you can achieve those results really fast. Um, the core of the Reese sound is obviously a sawtooth. It's really easy to hear. It's very detuned. That's what makes it so pulsy. Because when you fine tune two saws together, you basically get imbalance, which creates those cycles. So we have another Reese here I made with Harmor. Again, very just basic, but this is more like FM with the detune and frequency here. It's basically what happened. So let's take a listen to this example with using FM. It's cool. It also has its own character. And same thing here with a citrus. Literally just two operators with a sawtooth waveform just detuned. In this case, it's a unison, and you get this sound. So again, three unique sounds. And of course, we're gonna go in depth into how we can do this with samples, also, because I think with samples it's probably even more creative. But again, there's so many things to discover. So I'm gonna load up a Serum, and I'll show you pretty much the basics of how to achieve that kind of sound. The thing is with Reese basslines is mostly the processing. The processing and distortion on those things make huge difference. So if I'll play you the initial preset, like with what I'm going to do now, before I put effects on it, you'll see what I'm talking about. It just sounds so out of place already. But once you slap some effects on it, it becomes a whole different story. So I'm going to start with a simple basic shapes. We're going to go and pick this one, just a sawtooth. Then we're going to choose another one right here, an oscillator 2. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to leave oscillator A as it is, mono, it's nothing crazy. Then I'm going to go to oscillator B and I'm going to put it on one semitone up, and then you'll see what happens. Now you get this. See, the imbalance is created. And also put an oscilloscope here so you guys can see. Basically, look at the waveforms and how imbalanced they are. Once the two, I guess you can say the two waveforms are not really, I don't know if it's in phase. Again, I don't know the technical term for it, but they're not together. They're together, but they're not together in a way. So as you can see, we have those pulses here. So those things are basically what creates the movement of that Reese bassline. And the lower you go, the wider they become. So I'll give you an example. So as you can see, the spaces between the highest peak to the highest peak are pretty large compared to if you take it a few notes up. But that's what makes it so interesting because it has movement. So if you play a low note and then you go up, the whole thing just sounds different. It sounds very fast and then very slow, which makes it very interesting to me. So we're gonna make this move now, and we're gonna make this a proper Reese bass line. So we have two sawtooths together, and one is with semitone up, which creates the movement. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna load up an LFO here that I previously made. Just a little S, and then I'm gonna go into macro one. Now we're gonna go to the fine tune. Now, if we mess with the fine tune over here, this will make a lot of difference. This can also affect the movement and a lot of stuff that's going on. I'm gonna turn the phase down a little, and I think this will also supposed to affect the movement. So let's try. I'm gonna drag macro one because I want to control the movement here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take macro one, I'm gonna slap it into the fine tune modulator, and we're just gonna control the movement in a way, and you'll see what it does. So I'm gonna drag LFO1 into fine tune. Gonna go to the matrix. Gonna set this to one direction. Now you'll see that if I take it all the way down, then I let the macro be macro. This should go all the way up, I think. No, not all the way up. No, my bad. This should be on 0, and this guy should be all the way up. So yeah. Why am I so bad at this? Okay, let's do this manually. Destination, and we're gonna go to oscillator B, fine tune. Cool. Then what we do, okay, we're gonna make this move. Cool. So, okay. As you can see, when I move macro 1, so even if I'm on low note, I can control the speed of the pulses, which is, again, if you guys want to make any movement to the bass line and you're not happy with the way it is, then this is also an option. Just put a macro and fine tune modulator, and you can control it manually with some automation. Now, I know you guys hear that it's probably like out of key and it's detuned and it doesn't sound good. But watch this. So we're going to go to the effects section, and we're going to slap a hyper dimension just for some space, because this bass is still very mono, and we want to keep it mono. From technical aspect, we want this bass line to not disappear in the stereo field when we switch to mono. We want this to still be in the middle because it's a bass line. So I'm going to get rid of the hyper. I'm going to stay with the dimension. With the mix, so we have a bit of stereo. Take the size down. Now I'm going to put some distortion. And I like to use the diode 1. Sounds big already. I like to put some, also some portamento on it. Cool. Now, we want to give this Reese some character. So what we can do, I'm going to tell you about this LFO in a minute. We're going to go and take a phaser. Now, the phaser is what gives the Reese the aggressive, I guess you can say the aggressive frequency, the aggressive tone that it has in a lot of tracks that you probably heard, probably mostly drum and bass. This probably going to be like more like the old school Reese sounding bass line, but obviously with a bit of modern touch. So look what happens when I put the phaser on. I'm going to take the frequency down, the depth, and the rate down. This is what you get. Very fat, and once I turn off the phaser, it just becomes a boring pad. Adds a lot of grit, a lot of aggression to that bass line. What we're going to do is we're also going to add a filter. We're going to put the mix down a little, probably like around here. 32 is fine. I'm going to take this LFO. I'm going to put this on the cutoff knob, and then I'm going to make sure this is one direction. Then I'm going to take it down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put the LFO into a free rate. Now This adds a bit of character. Again, you can obviously mess with the mix. I wouldn't push it all the way up because then you're going to lose everything pretty much. And you can also mess with the order of the effects. Everything here will affect everything because if the phaser is going through distortion, you can get some really aggressive results, sometimes unpleasant. Let's try. Yeah, it sounds better outside of the distortion. Now the filter. Again, really subtle movement, but it does something. You know, this is with Reese Basslines. It's basically just trial and error, and it's about messing with stuff. This is the synthesizer way of doing a Reese bassline. Now I'll show you how to do it in Harmor. This is mostly sawtooths are what makes Reese a Reese. You can also get creative with sine waves and tons of distortion. But we have Harmor here. Let's start with the initial. Let's put the frequency all the way up to 16 and the detune to 8. Try 1. Cool. So now we have a very high pitch Reese. Wait, how did I do it here? Okay, sorry, my bad. Okay, so this is going to go to 8. Now we have another sawtooth. Just want to make sure the frequency divider is on 8, just because it's basically the think about it as the semitones in FM terms. So we have the same thing. If we're gonna go look at the oscilloscope, we have this. You know, because this is an FL Studio plugin. When you crank the input or the velocity all the way up, you get some kind of a harmonic distortion. So if I'm going to click, you know, really hard on my keyboard, I'm going to get this. If I'm going to go really low, it's going to be this. But you can see it's pulsing clearly. So now what comes into play is distortion once again. Distortion is what bonds everything together, even if it's a bit out of key. If you have two oscillators and one of them is not in key with the other one, let's say if it's like fine-tuned to 50 or something, distortion can sort of fix it. I mean, and I'll show you another example. If you just kind of put two saws on top of each other, you can get another result. But so we have this. We're going to go to the effects section. I'm going to put the log distortion, which I really like. And now look, once I put it, we're already getting a really aggressive sound. Really cool, you know? And you can also, I just realized that if you mess with the prism thing here, that stuff can get really aggressive. So I'm going to turn it down a little. I don't know how it works, what it does, but it works. So it's really cool. Another way to create Reese basslines that you just can mess with the detune and as you notice, when I go up in notes, the pulsing is changing, the speed is changing. You can get really creative. You can put some chorus on it, some unison as well. Again, another Reese. You know, I'm not gonna try and like go in depth because it's really endless. Now let's talk about processing. So I can also take another really simple synth. I think you can do this with every synth pretty much. I mean, it's pretty basic stuff. But I'm going to take the classic 3X oscillator from Image Line, and we're going to put this on Sawtooth. Going to put the them both on 12. Now we have two saws playing at the same time. And then we're gonna change the fine tune. We're gonna take the fine tune here to 35. It's already pulsing. Now if we're gonna take the other one to the other direction. So pretty much, think about it as two notes on top of each other playing together in polyphonic mode. I'm going to take this synth and I'm going to throw it into channel 4. I'm going to put some effects on it just so I can show you how two notes, let's say, that are not in key, obviously different notes on top of each other can become one. So I'm going to open Trash 2. I love Trash 2. It's my go-to distortion and wave shaping and whatnot. We're going to go to distortion and we're going to choose clip control. I like clip control. Just kind of gives it a nice saturation. You can also put it in multi-band mode. Choose a different one. You get like really insane stuff with this. But back to clip control. Sorry for the volume, by the way. That's what happens when you work with really loud stuff. But as you can see, once I put the distortion on it, it definitely sounds less off key. If I take it off, yeah, you can hear this more clearly in the high notes. But yeah, this is the pretty much the basics of a Reese sound. What I did here is just add some bunch of distortion, tame some frequencies with the C6, compress it, then EQ a little. Where I think, obviously this is a matter of taste. Also, there's another cool trick. If you put an EQ before the distortion, you can basically change more stuff inside the Reese sound and the way it sounds if you just mess with some of the bands in the EQ. Like I said, trial and error. You never know. You just try. But I think it's important to get the core of the Reese sound right. And then, after that, it's just having fun. Then I'm going to show you another trick, how to get really cool, I guess, really out of the ordinary kind of Reese bass lines. So if I take a sample, and let's say for this instance, a bassline sample, something with has some, with some punch. This one is from FL Studio. So what I'll do is I'm gonna, this one already has a loop. I don't want that loop. Okay. Let me choose something from Vengeance. You can never go wrong with Vengeance sounds. They always have stuff. Let's see. Let's go to the electro pack and oh god. Can I get a bass line? Okay, yeah, there we go. Let's try and choose something that is pretty Reese-y, I guess. Okay, this one. So we have this bass line right here. What I like to do is I like to shorten it. You can do this in any sampler, by the way, that has looping function. Then I like to put it in loop mode. Now, think about it this way. If the Reese is pulsing and you're looping something over and over, it's sort of pulsing in a way, right? So let's put an octave up. As you can hear, the loop is basically, it's almost like a very monophonic Reese, like it doesn't have any character, but I can even make it shorter. Then, as you can see, my loop is a lot, it's a lot faster now. But if I start playing a melody, I'm going to take one of the melodies here just to show you. If I'm going to take a melody and then I'm going to put this, let's say, in G. Then let's put some portamento on it. And then we get this. And the lower I go, cool, right? So you can do this with samples too. Once again, I can't stress this enough. This is all about effects. So I'm going to throw this into my crazy chain here. Let's see how it sounds. Oh, yeah, it's with the filter. Let's put this through the filter. So, you know, I think it still sounds very basic, but I can distort the hell out of it using the boost gain feature here in FL inside the sampler. And because I have so many limiters and compressors and stuff, I'm not worried about how loud it is here, because it's all going to go and get smashed through those things. So let me just take the channel down just in case. Sounds pretty Reese to me once it's distorted, you know, and maybe the notes can be higher. Then, you know, what I can do is I can also, if I need some stereo and I feel like this is too mono, I can open it to a different channel. I'm going to put Serum effects first. So I want my Serum effects to go through all those plugins. And, you know, when you can mess with the order of the plugins can do so much and, again, affect the whole sound, especially if you're dealing with distortion. And, okay, so let's try and put some stereo on it. I'm going to use hyperdimension. And then take the size down, put some mix up. Yeah, we got some pretty fat stereo. Now, and I can add distortion to that as well. The distortion kind of kills the stereo, so probably won't. Maybe put it after. Can do chorus as well. See, once I added a chorus, and then this chorus goes through all those distortions, you get a similar effect to what I did with Serum and Harmor and Citrus and 3X Oscillator. But basically the purpose is, when you have something that is pulsing and is going through a distortion, you can get a really, really nice movement. So I hope this basic tutorial was very helpful to you guys. And if you have any questions, you can always hit me up and ask me, and I will be happy to answer or at least try. So let's hear this again, this insane masterpiece. All right. All right. Thank you guys so much, and happy Reesing.